Editor's note: the following contains Obi-Wan Kenobi spoilers. The season finale of Obi-Wan Kenobi is here, and, with it, a lot of emotional and nostalgic moments for Star Wars fans. One of the most eagerly awaited of them was the possibility of Ben Kenobi, Ewan McGregor, finally being able to communicate with his own dead master, Qui-Gon Jinn, Liam Neeson. It was the triumphant return of one of the most controversial characters in the galaxy far, far away's lore, the first Jedi ever to be able to manifest through the Force after dying. But how did he do it? This plot was first introduced by Yoda, Frank Oz, in the final scenes of Revenge of the Sith. After Obi-Wan's climactic duel against his former apprentice Anakin Skywalker, Hayden Christensen, on the fiery slopes of the planet Mustafar, he meets with Yoda and Bail Organa, Jimmy Smits, aboard the iconic Tantive 4 starship to debate the future of Anakin's newborn children. They decide to separate the siblings in order to protect them from the Empire. Organa adopts the baby girl, Leia, while the boy, Luke, is to be taken to Tatooine to be raised by his Uncle Owen Lars, Joel Edgerton, and Aunt Beru White's son, Bonnie Peace, with Obi-Wan also moving to the desert planet to watch over the child. While in his exile, Yoda reveals to Kenobi he still has training to do in order to commune with his master, Qui-Gon, who found a way to return from the netherworld of the Force. Collider video of the day. By now, this is all ancient history, seeing as Revenge of the Sith came out in 2005, but it took all this time for Star Wars to finally bring Qui-Gon Jinn back. It is a relevant plot arc for Obi-Wan Kenobi, but also one of utmost importance for the franchise as a whole. Up to that point in the lore, Qui-Gon was the only Jedi to discover this so-called path to immortality, but how exactly is that possible, seeing as Force ghosts are now so common in Star Wars and such an iconic part of the saga? To understand this, we must first understand who Qui-Gon Jinn was as a Jedi. Inside the Order, he was seen as a maverick, someone who didn't really care for taking the high road when it came to following the very strict Jedi ways of studying the Force. Although his knowledge and abilities were highly respected, to the point where he was even considered for a seat on the Jedi Council, as revealed by the beautiful novel Master and Apprentice, by Claudia Gray, his disregard for procedures and dedication to unusual philosophies were often looked down upon by his peers and even Obi-Wan, his own Padawan. One of these unusual methods was Qui-Gon's dedication to his studies of the living Force, one of the two main ways the Force manifests itself. While the most famous was the Cosmic Force, which is the one who guides people's actions through its will and can be manipulated by them, the living Force was, through the years, cast aside by the Jedi, with only a few of them being interested in it. The concept is the one we are familiar with, the Buddhist influence notion that the Force is created by all living things, it surrounds us, penetrates us and binds the galaxy together. We hear references to it in A New Hope, The Empire Strikes Back, The Last Jedi and a whole arc with Yoda in the Clone Wars, to name a few. The idea is that the Force is composed not only by everything that is, but also by everything that was, so, when someone dies, they are simply joining the energy of the universe, or, as the Jedi put it, becoming one with the Force. It was never really clear what practical methods Qui-Gon used to reach that point of dominion over the Force, but it was only possible for him to see manifesting his presence after death as something viable and feasible because he was a student of the living Force, having a deep faith and clear mind about how it works. For the Jedi, though, it took more, as this philosophy was not so popular among them. It wasn't anything bad, of course, most of them only opted for studying and understanding the cosmic force, without realizing that, actually, those two currents of thought are not to separate things, but rather complementary. There can only be the so-called balance in the force, a cosmic force concept, if the natural order of things is respected, as we are all part of it, which, in turn, is a living force notion. The only two Jedi who knew about Qui-Gon's newfound abilities by the time Obi-Wan Kenobi takes place are Yoda and Ben himself. Despite being two of the greatest and most iconic Jedi ever, they were also examples of the narrow view that led the Order to its downfall by sticking to only one point of view, so adapting to a more old-fashioned approach to the Force was not easy. For Yoda, this was possible because of his travels to Goba and to a planet known as the Wellspring of Life on Season 6 of the Clone Wars, where he talked to embodiments of the Force itself, the living Force, mind you. Obi-Wan, in turn, had a steeper hill to climb. After witnessing the destruction of the Jedi Order, the fall of democracy and losing his own apprentice to the dark side of the Force, even the brightest shining beacon of the Jedi can go dark, and that's what happened to him. People can only take so much. On the 10 years between Revenge of the Sith and Obi-Wan Kenobi, he was undergoing a severe crisis of faith, with his very connection to the Force wavering. He went on to live in a cave near the Lars homestead on Tatooine, had to get used to seeing people being bullied around him and adapting to the harsh reality of the desert planet. It took him facing his demons and undergoing the whole journey we see on the series to regain his faith. Only then was he able to see his old master Qui-Gon and get the guidance he needed so much. That and, of course, a lot of meditation, as seen in the interlude of the novel Ahsoka, by E.K. Johnston. The living Force is what we think about when describing what the Force is. It's important to remember that, by the time A New Hope takes place in the Star Wars timeline, a lot has already happened and changed in the galaxy and in the Jedi themselves. The description Ben, Alec Guinness, gives Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill, then, Yoda's monologue on the X-Wing scene in The Empire Strikes Back and Luke's now iconic line "No one is ever really gone" to Leia, Carrie Fisher, and lessons to Rey, Daisy Ridley, in The Last Jedi, they all come from this philosophy. We get to see a lot more Force ghosts. Hopefully, what Qui-Gon Jinn accomplished was the start of a new way for the Jedi to see the universe, not only coming back from the dead. Read more about Obi-Wan Kenobi here, Hayden Christensen on Obi-Wan Kenobi, returning to Star Wars, and his Darth Vader voice Obi-Wan Kenobi, Deborah Chow talks telling new stories with legacy characters. Obi-Wan Kenobi's finale draws deep parallels to a pivotal Star Wars Rebels episode.